everybody, and welcome to BioS3 Raw TV. So a big, well, not a big thing, but something that people are talking about right now, not just in YouTube and stuff like that online, but in the gym too. I actually got approached a couple times asking me what I think of Simeon Panda in his new video. I think, basically Jason Blaha, I think, is what set this whole thing off. He called him out in his Lifetime, or his Natty or Not series, and Simeon got quite a lot of hate for it, I guess, and a lot of trolling for it, and next thing you know, he took it upon himself to try to prove his natural status. Now, one thing I'm surprised with is that, Simeon in his video was talking about the abuse that he was starting to get because of the trolls, and I thought it was kind of interesting, because I'm like, you know what, I thought this guy always got the abuse, the trolling, etc., whatever it is, because of the fact that so many people thought that he wasn't natural. Now, let me start off by saying that I have seen Simeon in person at the expos and stuff. I was actually at the gym with him and Ulysses. Ulysses, and I think there was just them two. They were training at the LA Fit Expo last year when we were at Metroflex Long Beach. And I remember looking at him and I was like, wow, you know what? Like, in person, he didn't look as big as I thought he did on the camera. So I was like, okay, maybe, I'm looking at him going, maybe, possibly, he is clean. And people go, Jerry, you fucking nuts, look at him. Now, in the video that you saw of him sitting on the couch without a pump, without the lighting, without fucking certain angles, he didn't look as impressive as he does in the gym. Okay, that is not a telltale sign of a natty. Everybody's like that, whether you're on drugs or not. But let's step back for a second here and say, could this guy possibly be natural? Now, first of all, he's spending a lot of money to try to prove himself natural. Polygraph test, I've taken a polygraph test before when I was a teenager for the ANBC. I know guys had beaten the polygraph test. Plain and simple. And what was interesting was, back then, there was this law, I believe, that's what the rumor was, I don't know for a fact, that if you fail the test, they had to let you take it over again. Because technically it's, they can't, it's not admissible in court, it's not legal, it's bullshit. So basically you pay the fee, you take the test again. Now, I know guys that, had beaten it, that were taking stuff. It wasn't a very hard test. They had controlled questions, but it was like a 45-minute test with many controlled questions, not like a couple. And I don't know if there was more controlled questions that they gave Simeon, and there was more to the polygraph than just the two questions they asked him. But they would reword things over and over again with us, like, hey, have you ever tried growth hormone before? No. And then later on in the test, did you ever try growth hormone in the last 6 months? No. And then it would be like, did you ever take growth hormone in preparation for this contest? They would reword it to kind of try to throw you off to see where the needle would jump on the thing. So, polygraph test, is that, admissible? Is it legit? One would say if this guy's going through so much trouble to try to prove his natural status, where a lot of guys just fucking blow it off and laugh at it and say, fuck you, it doesn't matter, I'm not going to deal with it. The hair follicle test, I'm like, he's actually going through kind of a lot of shit to try to prove his natural status, which nobody else out there is doing. Because, let's face facts, maybe nobody else out there could pass the tests. I'm not saying nobody, but you get what I'm trying to say. Now, breaking it down and asking the question, could Simeon be natural? Jerry, could Simeon possibly be natural? Not is he natural, could he possibly be natural? Let's step back a second here now. Let's look at Phil Heath, Ronnie Coleman, Kai Green. All of these guys, before they ever took a fucking single drug in their life, looked like they were already on drugs. They had the density, they had the muscularity, they had the leanness, they had vascularity, they had all these things. And all three of those guys hadn't touched a drug to a certain point. You can see where they progressed past that. Kai was actually competing in the WNBF, I believe it was, when I was a natural teenager. I believe Kai and I are the same age. So, he was in all the natural magazines that I had seen. And I remember looking up and saying, shit, man, this guy, he's really good. He's fucking amazing. And he was completely clean that whole time. You had guys like Jose Gutierrez, all these other guys that were a lot thinner, but had the muscularity and the sharpness. Then you'd have the guys like Jeff Willett, Skip LaCour, guys that people questioned because they had a fullness and a roundness to their muscles that the other guys didn't have. Now, Simeon seems to have the fullness and the roundness, but not the density of a Kai Green or Jose Gutierrez. So it's like he doesn't have the best of both worlds, the best of everything. Now, Phil Heath, actually, if you go back and look at the pictures of him when he was playing basketball, didn't just have the roundness and the fullness, he had the hardness at the same time. And that was just from doing whatever calisthenics and stuff he was doing for basketball, not even training for weight training. Training for his first competition, I don't know whether he took something or not, but He didn't have to, and he probably still would have won. And people, I guarantee you, were probably questioning him before he ever took anything, asking if he took something. Ronnie Coleman the same way. He was going to the gym and he didn't even take it very seriously. Bodybuilding wasn't even a thing for him. He was just doing it to stay in shape and be a little stronger, to be a cop. And then when Brian Dobson asked him to do a competition for a free membership, he's like, oh, I can get a free membership to the gym. I'll do it. It wasn't life or death for Ronnie Coleman. He wasn't using drugs back then. And, he claims, and a lot of people that know him claim the same thing, that he wasn't. But he was competing he was already a pro, and competing in the pros, natural. So you look at these three guys and say, okay, Kai Green, Ronnie Coleman, Phil Heath. Now, none of them actually had the size that Simeon has. Now, the problem we run into with all this shit is so many people have lied throughout the years. I'd say like 99% of people lie about whether they're natural or not, whether they don't want to lose a contract, whether they don't want people to think that they're not working hard, that it's so fucking hard to tell. Now, are we ever going to know whether someone is natural or not? No. You're never going to fucking know. You can either take his word for it or not take his word for it. But the bottom line is, Simeon so far is the only one really going out on a limb here, trying to prove the fact that he's natural. Now, I remember being a natural bodybuilder, a teenager. And I remember nobody fucking accused me of using steroids because I was so small that nobody'd ever go, that guy's on roids right there. But the bottom line was bodybuilding and steroids were related, like stigma-wise. So automatically they'd be like, oh, you're going to go on steroids? And I would get so offended. I'd be like, no, I'm not fucking going to go on steroids. I went on steroids anyways, but I'm not going to go on steroids. I'm going to stay natural, compete natural. And I was lucky enough to train at a gym where a whole bunch of natural, national-level bodybuilders competed out of. With, Eddie DePina, Paul Thompson, these guys that were fucking amazing. And people all the time thought Eddie DePina, my boy Eddie, was on drugs, and he wasn't. He was 210, very lean, was inclining 315 on the incline bench for a couple reps. Natural, completely natural, and had the round, full muscle bellies, and, he just had that look to him, and he had a small waist, small hips genetically, wide shoulders, big arms, always had some vascularity. So I have seen guys that, and I'd say Eddie probably would at least rival, if not be bigger than Simeon when he was younger in his prime and was 100% natural. So is it possible Simeon is natural? Yes, I have seen people that I know for a fact that were super close friends of mine that when I even thought about going on drugs, fucking got so disappointed in me, were so upset with me, and tried so hard to steer me away from that stuff. And I knew for a fact that they were natural. And to this day, still the same size. Hasn't shrunk, hasn't grown, still the same size, still the same muscularity. Like, that's a telltale sign of someone who uses drugs. You get bigger, smaller, you lose conditioning, you gain conditioning. There's a big swing up and down when someone's on or off something. When you're completely natural, you shouldn't lose any muscle if you're training and dieting still. I mean, even if you're eating more calories, you shouldn't lose muscle. You should still have that same amount of muscle. So my personal feeling is I don't know whether Simeon's natural, but my personal opinion is he could be. Ulysses, him, they very well could be natural, because I saw guys back in the early 90s when drugs were not all over the place and you couldn't fucking buy them, and you couldn't go to the gym and just fucking get them from somebody at the gym without somebody saying something somewhere to somebody. You couldn't get them online. There was no online. You weren't fucking ordering them from other countries. You couldn't do any of that shit. And these guys looked like Simeon and Ulysses. So it's definitely possible. That's my opinion. Take it for what it's worth. Biostraining@gmail.com. Leave comments down below, but don't fight. www.biostraining.com is a blog. It's the no longer natural, but once was natural bicep, and we're out.